So, Kevin DuBose, welcome to Read on the Record. How you doing this evening?
I'm great, sir. And yourself?
I'm hanging in there. I am showing up here from Little Rock, Arkansas. I am teaching a class of about 41 students. We are doing the 4-day class. It's the basic and advanced techniques of the Reid Technique. We are doing interviewing and interrogation. So we just finished up theme development today. So everything's going pretty good.
Outstanding.
That's right. For our listeners and viewers who are just joining us right now, if you could hit the like button and the subscribe button, that would really help us out. But the reason why I have Kevin DuBose on is because Kevin DuBose authored an article that was rather supportive of the Reid technique. I will be pulling this article up, and we're going to reference it every now and then. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to turn it over to Kevin. And Kevin, if you could tell us about yourself and what you think of the Reid technique and what your opinion is of it and where you are right now.
Yes, sir. I really appreciate you having me on. I just a quick thumbnail on my background. I've been in investigations for over 26 years now. I started out as a civilian investigator, and that's when I attended my first Reid seminar. I think it was back in 2002.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
so I became a believer early on because I found it to be, even with my civilian investigations, to be very effective. And then once I became a commissioned peace officer, I continued to use Reid regularly, and we use it to this day. I'm blessed to be the deputy chief of the Office of Inspector General for the Texas Juvenile Justice Department, and we send all of our criminal investigators and our administrative investigators to Reid. I mean, that's how much we believe in it. We've had a lot of success with it. And I just personally feel like it's a really effective technique. Um, I think what really drove me to write this white paper that I wrote at Leadership Command College for Sam Houston State was, you know, I'm a bit of a true crime junkie, and I watch Dateline and 2020 and 48 Hours and all that, and you can't watch those shows without hearing about, or seeing stories about wrongful convictions. And with some of those wrongful convictions, of course, there were false confessions. But and studying those cases, it was readily apparent to me that so much of the criticism was completely off base and completely unfair. As I surmised in the paper, it really was in my opinion, at least, it's a misapplication of Reid, or actual not using Reid at all, that resulted in the false confessions that I happened to see. So that really inspired me to write this article, because I felt like, once again, that the criticisms were completely unfair, and that this is actually a very effective technique for law enforcement and other investigative entities.
Well, thank you very much for that. And I think there's no higher praise than people who have actually had the seminar. And not only that, but law enforcement professionals like yourself, Mr. DuBose, who have used our technique out there in the field. I can remember my very first Reid Technique seminar was back in 2014. I was an investigator in South Carolina, sworn law enforcement. And 2 weeks after I had the class, I obtained a substantiated legal and ethical confession from a criminal sexual contact suspect. And that's what sold me on the technique. My rate of closure due to obtaining a substantiated confession was zero before then. And whenever I give these seminars out there, sir, I talk to other law enforcement professionals, and they share a lot of the same stories with it, because it seems like interviewing and interrogation was something of a mystery to me, and I'm sure that you had kind of the same experience of it. But to hear it so succinctly articulated and concisely laid out in an easy to understand format, like what Reid and Associates, what we teach and advocate, it really was a game changer for me professionally. And I know that you are in a leadership role, a leadership position. I'm sure you're mentoring and shaping younger investigative officers out there. And I can remember my mentor in law enforcement told me, he said, "Hey, Frank, I think what you need is a pocket skill to get really, really good at something that sets you aside." And that's what Reid was for me. And something that you said, sir, really, really stuck out to me. And that's what a lot of the critics of the Reid technique are saying about us. And I have a copy of your article, and there will be a link to your article as well. I'm going to figure out a way to put it in the show notes so we can give your authorship a little bit of a wider recognition of what's going on. But I believe the name of the article is, let's see here, Texas Law Enforcement and the Reid Technique, a leadership white paper, and this is about the Reid technique, so I am looking at it. It's pretty good. You do a great job, I'd like to say, under counter arguments on page 6 of your article, of fairly and charitably summarizing the critics of the Reid technique. And I have to say, sir, that that is more courtesy than what we've been shown here at John Reid and Associates.
Yes, sir.
But you do a very, very great job of summarizing what we teach, the difference between an interview and interrogation. I was telling Dan, I said, I couldn't have written a paper better than this myself. But you do such a good job with your counter arguments of kind of narrating what the critics of the Reid technique are saying and identifying where they fall short. And one thing I've noticed about our critics is that I feel like you and me, we can go and we can sum up our critic's position accurately, but they can't sum up our position. I don't know if you're familiar with our YouTube channel, but we covered Into the Shadows by a YouTube creator named Simon, millions and millions
Yes,
of
sir.
subscribers. Yeah, and he couldn't even name the 5 step. I mean, I'm sorry, the 9 steps of interrogation. I mean, he was just all over the place with it, and it left me, excuse me, it left me shaking my head. And, how could critics say stuff like this and just be so wrong with it, you know?
No, I completely agree. And one of the ways that I look at Reid and how it's possibly viewed by critics, if you really take a logical approach to it, Reid is a tool. It's a tool for law enforcement, like any other tool that we use. And if you subscribe to what the critics are putting forth, then you throw away that tool. But when you put it in the context of that, we use a lot of different tools in law enforcement, as I said. Are you going to throw away the tool because somebody misuses it, misapplies it,
Exactly,
or
yeah.
or we just don't do that. Now, if it's a
Thank you,
faulty
yeah.
tool for
Mhm.
whatever reason, whether it be a firearm or just whatever you can insert, if it's faulty, then of course I understand that. But in this instance, it's not. Um, Reid is a very effective tool, and then unfortunately, in some instances, I think it's been, as I've said, misapplied or just really not used at all, because many of the false confessions that I've studied are, as I've already said, are they're instances in which law enforcement is doing exactly what Reid says not to do. Um, so that's my take on it. I hope that all made sense, but
It makes total sense, and what I notice about the people who are critical of the Reid technique is that they tend to fall into some different camps, and I'm pretty sure that you have made these same types of observations. The number one camp that I found, they tend to be activists who are solutions in search of a problem. Okay, if that makes any sense. They're looking for the next scandal. They're looking for somewhere, they're looking for a moral crusade. And they like to take things like interrogation, tasers, use of force policies, proactive policing, Terry stops, all that good stuff. And they like to make it sound scary. The word interrogation, the word proactive policing, gang units, all that stuff out there, you know. And they like to frighten people into thinking that it is something that it's not. And I see this all the time. And it seems like the recent thing on the chopping block has been the Reid technique. And I think a big part of that is that these activists are looking for something where it's almost like they look at policing, Mr. DuBose, and they're like, okay, where can we take the human element out of this and turn policing into a math problem? Which, as a former cop myself, I think is a mistake because crime is a human problem. It requires a human solution.
I couldn't agree more. And again, I just I I know I'm repeating myself, but I've heard so many of these criticisms, and they're just completely they're unfair and they're inaccurate. And
Thank you. Yeah.
again, I was compelled to write this paper for that reason. And I have no association with the with Johnny Reid and Associates at
Yeah.
all, other than we use the technique as we've been trained to do it. But I feel so strongly about it because it has been really, really effective. And I'm compelled to say that I have to give uh, what a little bit of context in terms of what my agency does. We're a different kind of law enforcement agency in that we investigate allegations of abuse, neglect, and exploitation that originate from juvenile justice facilities all over the state of Texas. We have 5 state-operated facilities that we're responsible for, as well as a number of 70-plus county-operated
Mhm.
facilities in which we have jurisdiction to conduct investigations. Um, our our primary responsibility is to keep the juvenile offenders safe from being victimized either sexually, through use of force, incidents, things of that nature. And one thing that I'm particularly interested in is sexual abuse perpetrated by staff, or staff sexual misconduct, as some people like to call it.
Mhm.
And I have found that in the course of my career, dating back to being an administrative investigator many years ago to today, where I'm an actual administrator over a law enforcement agency, that the Reid technique has been highly effective in in allowing us to elicit information from staff who have engaged in sexual relationships with offenders. And none of that is uh, involves any sort of coercive action by our officers. The tone that we use isn't anything more than the way you and I are talking now. Um, and it has been highly effective, and it's allowed us to be able to remove people from a system that should not be working with kids. And in
Thank
many
you. Yeah.
instances, it's allowed us to bring about a reckoning in terms of criminal prosecution. So it's been really
Mhm.
effective. My chief, Daniel Guajardo, is really supportive of our staff attending the training. He makes sure that that we send our staff, our criminal investigators and our administrative investigators, and we've had a lot of success with it. And I think we've protected a lot of kids.
You bring up a wonderful point. I mean, not only does the Reid technique eliminate the innocent and identify the guilty, it's one of these investigative tools, but I don't know if I want a world without the Reid technique. I can say from my investigations as a deputy working in the Criminal Investigation Division in South Carolina that there are about 18 individuals from robbery, burglary, and sexual assault. They would be walking free right now had I not had the seminar in 2014. There are so many predators out there. They're clever, they plan, they're strategic, they have high emotional level of intelligence, and they know what the policies are, they know what they can get away with, and they'll cross the line into criminal behavior to where there's no evidence, there's not really a reliable witness or victim. The only thing you may have could be a secondhand report. The Reid technique is so effective at uncovering independent evidence through the form of a confession by these types of predators out there that our critics out there, if they had a magic wand, sir, and they waved that magic wand over us and there was no more Reid technique, I think the state of Texas, the state of South Carolina, I mean, our nation would be much, much less safer. And you would have murderers, sexual assault predators running around out there. So you bring up a really good point. And the Reid technique, it's not just to discover the truth, but it has this secondary effect of reinforcing the bonds of trust between law enforcement and the public at large. When staff is held accountable through one of the most effective interviewing techniques on the planet, that reinforces the public trust in law enforcement that is so vital to you doing your job and everyone being able to function in society.
Yes, sir. And again, I just can't overstate its importance to us and
Mhm.
um, how beneficial it's been to have our investigators use that technique.
Mhm. I can tell that you are one of the rare leaders in law enforcement who watches after the people's professional growth. And I'd like to compliment that on you. When I was reading this, I was thinking to myself, this comes from a leader who leads from the front. He knows what's going on in his own backyard, and he cares about the development of the people under him. And if law enforcement, if we could get about 10% more leadership like this, then I think we would be light years ahead of where we are currently in our nation. But one thing that for me, the real golden part of your article would be towards the very end. And this is your references here. And I was reading over your references, wonderful, wonderful, strong secondary and primary sources that you cite. I can tell that you really did your homework on this. And I was looking at some of these sources. I'm going over it. I can tell that you read the Criminal Interrogation and Confessions book, the big Bible that we have here at John Reed and Associates, and just some really, really good work cited. And for those of you that can't look at the article right now, every claim that Kevin DuBose makes, he backs it up with a citation. Unlike a lot of our critics out there, they'll make a claim and there's no citation to it. The work cited is absolutely incredible with this, and I think that this is really, really, really cool. And I was wondering if you could tell us about the possible audience for this. I noticed that it says the Law Enforcement Management Institute of Texas. That this was and this showed up as a presentation or a publication.
It all culminated in a defense, if you will, in the presence of a panel, some of which were academics from Sam Houston State. And
Okay.
really, I'll just full disclosure, my intended audience really was for law enforcement leaders around the state of Texas, and
Okay.
I'm
Yes.
not I'm not arrogant enough to believe that, that this paper was going to be shopped around and that everybody was going to read it, but I wanted it to be available, and it is published for law enforcement leaders to read it and hopefully uh, get get some truth as it relates
Thank you.
to
Yes.
interview and interrogation, because I don't know that I can come up with an articulate way to say this other than to say that sometimes in our profession, um, something gets rolled out as some sort of profound truth, and and momentum takes over. And unfortunately, I think there's been a little bit, at least, of momentum that's caused some law enforcement leaders to maybe change course or not consider the Reid technique. And I just wanted, to the best of my ability, to be able to set the record straight that this technique does not inherently cause people to confess to things that they didn't do. That is absolute garbage. It's not true. Um, I think that in addition to that, that some of the false confessions that we've seen that resulted in wrongful convictions were elicited by investigators who weren't even using Reid. They were doing their own thing. They were doing something that maybe they saw on TV. I don't know, but somehow, in some instances, I believe it got hung on Reid, if you will. Like the critics were saying, "Well, this was a Reid interrogation," and I don't believe that to be true in every case. But again, I just wanted to do what I could to stem this, whatever momentum exists, to completely abandon a technique that has been highly effective for law enforcement. And I can speak for my agency; it's been really effective for us, based on a bunch of mistruths.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. What I've noticed about the internal law enforcement critics of the Reid technique, okay, the ones who are really critical of us, who call us a legacy interrogation school, we're out of date, unscientific. A lot of them are either pushing their own interview and interrogation school. I've seen this,
Yes,
okay, like they're
I
pushing it.
have too.
Yeah, and they want to take on the mantle of cutting edge science. And I mean, according to science, Florida should have been underwater 10 years ago, right? I mean, it's like but they take these behavioral studies where the test subjects are 18 and 19-year-old undergrads who never committed a felony assault. And they take the negative results from these behavioral studies and they're just overnight inventing these interviewing techniques. And so my counter argument to them is number one, you can only reinvent the wheel so many times. And number two is that I think a good scientific test of the Reid technique is not these little lab grown meat experiments where they set you up for failure. But I've
That's
always
right.
said, hey, select 10 or 20 or 30 random open felony cases. Okay. Let's make it to where if the person is caught being deceptive, or there's probable cause for their arrest, they're looking at some serious time. So a serious case, okay? Take me, take some of the other instructors, put us on those cases. If we obtain the truth in the form of an elicited, truthful, substantiated, independently verified, legal, and ethical confession, may the best methodology win. Uh, who can go out in the real world and get actual results that we can testify to in court and actually defend? That's my open challenge to the critics. To our competitor, who shall remain unnamed, that's my challenge to them. And I've gotten so sick of these people, and maybe this is just the law enforcement coming out of me, my old life. To me, when I was a cop, I was always like, yeah, 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 you can tell me how great your system is. Prove it to me out there on the road. Let's see it out there in the real world for it to actually work. So, open challenge to our critics out there. This is not DuBose. He's not speaking for his law enforcement agency or John Reid and Associates, okay? But this is just Frank Shumpert talking. Um, Bring your very best methodology. I don't care what it is. Let's select some random cases out there and let's have a cage match of interviewing and interrogation techniques. I guarantee you I'm going to win because I'm using the Reid technique and I'm pretty good at it. I mean, we're using our videos in class. I mean, we know what we're doing. We've been doing this since 1947. So these people can quote studies all they want to. But for me, it's like, okay, let's go out into the real world then. Let's see who's really going to win. And
Right.
I have run across, because I'm still part of professional networks in South Carolina of law enforcement, I've encountered every now and then the weirdo who's really anti-Reid, and I've often told them my challenge. I'm like, okay, cool. Do you want to set something up? I'm sure you have some open cases. Do you want to try and see which one of our methodologies is better? Because of your years of experience in your leadership in law enforcement, I do have some questions for you.
Sure.
If you have some time of it, I figure we could go off script just a little bit. I get
Absolutely.
asked, oh yeah, I get asked all the time. They say, "Hey Frank, I'm 19 or 20, and I really want to go into law enforcement. What kind of advice do you have for me?" So I'd like to put that question to you, Kevin DuBose. You're talking to a 19 or 20-year-old, and they've got the blue light fever. What's your advice to them?
I think, first of all, I have to say that I have been very blessed to serve the people that I serve. And the majority of us are, I wouldn't say that we're of an advanced age, but they're more seasoned law enforcement officers. So I don't have a ton of experience with young people coming into the profession as of late. But the advice that I would give them is number one, come into the profession for the right reason. Meaning that, as you well know, as a seasoned law enforcement officer, that you, if you're coming in, just to wear the badge and the gun and to with the thought in mind that you're going to tell people what to do and that people are going to automatically respect that, you're going to be disappointed and you're frankly, you're not going to last long. Um, so come into the profession for the right reasons. The other thing that I would say, and this is a very 101 type statement, but if you're a young person in college, think about the decisions you're making right now, in terms of your conduct, the things you do, the things that you shouldn't do, because I can tell you that in Texas, the standard is high. And, I've seen over the course of the last few years, especially, uh, things coming up in people's background that really has limited their ability to frankly, to land jobs in law enforcement. So I would just say to any young person who's thinking about becoming a police officer, think about what you're doing right now. Don't worry so much about the future. Think about what you're doing right now, and conduct yourself accordingly. Um,
Hmm.
so
Oh
those
yes.
are a couple of things. For me, I love this profession. You know, it's been my life, and it will continue to be for some time. There are going to be days, once again, if I were talking to a young person, I would tell them there are going to be days that are going to be hard. You're going to see things that are very unpleasant. Um, but in the end, I think if you keep the core idea at heart that you're a public servant, you're there to serve your community, you're there to serve your state. I take great pride in serving the great state of Texas. It means everything to me. Um, and if you keep that mindset and just keep taking that next step forward, those bad days will be in your rear view, and um, you'll be like me, facing the end of your career someday. So,
I have to give a shout out to the state of Texas. I have some family in Texas. They're mainly, I think they're around the Corpus Christi area. And also, I have to say, the classes that I have taught, the seminars I've taught in Texas, I have been absolutely amazed by the brother and sisterhood of that state as far as law enforcement goes. Now, everywhere I've been, there's been a strong bond between all law enforcement officers, but there is definitely something special and unique with Texas. It's amazing that a state that size with the population, I've been to Austin, I've been to Dallas, I've been to Houston, and I've been to Temple, I've been to Belton, I've been to Laredo. Every single place I've been to, it has the feel of a small town. It's really kind of difficult to describe it. Everyone is informal, but yet formal at the same time. Everyone is extremely mission focused, and yet they don't have a hard edge like I find at some other places, but they can get business taken care of at the same time. So
yes,
uh,
sir.
that's it. I've often told people when I'm asked that question, I said, I tell them exactly what you say, sir. I say, be very careful of your conduct right now, because background investigations can uncover a whole lot of different stuff. And not only that, but this is a kind of job where your virtue will increase and your vice will increase as well. So you should have very little vice whenever you start. You should have
Indeed.
small amount of vice. But I've also said
Indeed.
that your geographic area matters a whole lot. And I think Texas, if you're able to move somewhere, if you want to, if you just want to move out of your state for any kind of reason, you're thinking about a law enforcement career. From what I've met of the law enforcement officers in Texas, I've been damned impressed by them. The professionalism, the moral standard of them, and there really is a true feeling of camaraderie. And there's other law enforcement areas. I mean, I'm not going to name them. I'm not here to pass judgment, but they don't have that camaraderie. So Texas definitely has it. It definitely has that camaraderie. So
Well, and
mm,
and I agree. And as you can see from the the flag behind my head, I mean, we
I
take
was
great
looking at
pride
that. Yeah.
in being from Texas, and uh, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. There's no place else I'd rather be. I just think I'm darn lucky to be a native Texan. So
100%. That's right. Yeah. And I'm happy to kind of claim the state as well. My late mother was born there. On her side of the family, I have a bunch of relatives in Texas, so there's definitely a bloodline connection between me and the great state of Texas. So
Well, there
it's
you
some
go.
really cool stuff. That's right. Kevin DuBose, thank you so much for your time. I know that your time is precious, and we really appreciate it. On behalf of John Reid and Associates, thank you so much for your article, sir.
Well, thank you, and you guys keep fighting the good fight because your technique it matters. It makes a difference, and again, I just hope that others see it for what it is, and it's a very valuable tool.
That is awesome. Well, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.